Energy bills are finally going down from April the 1st. And that's great news. At least that's what I thought, until I opened my latest email from Octopus and I noticed something very different. Now, while my unit rates are dropping, mainly because of the removal of government policy costs, my standing charge is going up by nearly 10%. And it's just 3 months since the last raise. Standing charges are a tax, and it's time we stood up and said, no more. Now, your bill is broken down into multiple parts. Your unit rate is what you pay for the energy you use, and that's the bit that's in your control. Then we have things like VAT, the tax on that you have to pay. Then there's something called the standing charge. The standing charge is something you pay just for the privilege of being connected to the network. Now, even if you use zero electricity or gas, you're still getting billed that standing charge. Now, we're being told energy costs are coming down, and we were promised savings. The Chancellor stood up in the House of Commons and said an average of about £150 per person. But they didn't mention the standing charge was going to go up massively. So this is what I received yesterday. There are changes to the unit rates for both the day and the night. That's very welcome. But just look at the top line there. Standing charge, 47.7 pence to 52.19. That's almost a 9.4% change just 3 months after they put the standing charges up again. Now, I actually run all of my numbers from last year through this new pricing model. And at these rates, I would actually save about £200 a year. But that's only because I've invested a large amount of money into solar and batteries and other ways to keep my energy rates down. An average household isn't going to make those kind of savings. But what they are going to pay is a lot more in standing charges, even though they can do nothing about it. Now, how much energy we use is in our direct control. It is totally up to us if we want to turn the heating up a little bit, we want to leave the TV running while we're out of the house. All of that is something we can do something about. If we use more, we pay more. But the standing charge is now out of control. It seems every time the price cap is renewed, the DNOs who control the standing charge keep heaping more and more cost onto this. And we'll come back to where that money goes in a moment. Now, if you don't know, the standing charges are supposed to cover the running of the infrastructure, the wires, the networks, the pylons, the cables, the transformers, all of the infrastructure to get power from the power station to your house. And it's supposed to cover the cost of running the companies that manage all of this. Now, all of these DNOs are regional monopolies. You can't choose them. If you live in a certain area, you're allocated to a certain DNO. If you don't like them, you can't switch away. You can't negotiate with them about pricing. You are stuck paying them whatever they decide you're going to pay for them. And they just take that amount of money and put it onto your bill. Now, if this was done through general taxation, the Chancellor would have to stand up in the House of Commons and say, we're raising taxes. But because these are private regional monopolies, they can just push more costs onto our bills with no fanfare. Nobody has to stand up in Parliament and say we're putting taxes up. And it's all done very quietly, a kind of stealth tax directly onto your bills. Now, we're told that these cost increases are needed because the grid requires investment in upgrading. The reason it requires investment in upgrading is these companies haven't been doing their jobs. They haven't been investing and upgrading the grid for the last 30 years. They've been doing the minimum that is required to maximize their profits. But at the same time as they've been doing this, these companies have been paying out billions in dividends to shareholders. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop a report up on the screen. I will put a link to it in the description below. But if you want to see exactly how much money is being siphoned out of our pockets directly into the hands of shareholders, This report is worth reading. Now, our money is going into the DNO. Some of it is being used to invest in the network, but large quantities of it, and I'm talking billions of pounds, are being paid out to shareholders. And in fact, in my case, in the east of England, one of the majority shareholders of UK power networks is a billionaire in Hong Kong who has taken billions of pounds out of the UK economy directly from the DNO. Now, companies like Octopus and Eon and EDF and all the others, the people we interface with, are kind of stuck in the middle here. They don't control the network costs, they don't set the standing charge, they simply pass it on. But to us, the customer, it appears on our bill under their name. And they're the ones that basically get it in the ear from us, even though they don't set the rules. They're just told, this is how much you have to put onto every single customer's bill, go and do it. Oh, and by the way, send us the money. Now, people are doing the right thing. They're doing what they can to minimize their energy bills. They follow the guidance of people like Martin Lewis. They're installing solar panels and batteries, and they're driving electric cars. They're installing heat pumps because the government wants us to move to a more electric-centric country. And they're shifting all of their usage to the cheapest possible time, shifting that usage off peak when energy is cheaper. But while we're working hard to minimize our bills, and you find out at the same time that billionaires are skimming off billions of pounds, something has gone badly wrong. Now, we shouldn't be calling these standing charges. We should call them what they are: taxes. Just like taxes, you can't avoid them, you can't choose a different company to work with, you just have to pay what they say, when they say. That is a tax. But just in this case, the tax doesn't go to HMRC, it goes to, in my case, a billionaire in Hong Kong who really doesn't need the money. So we're all being told your bills are going up because the network needs investment, but at the same time, these companies are paying out billions to shareholders. Now, once upon a time, we, the consumer, owned the power networks in the UK. But previous governments have sold it off to private companies. And funny, I don't remember getting a cheque for my part of that. But now these companies have free rein to take money whenever they want. And I think this has got to stop. Now, please don't just watch this video and move on. What I would ask of you is check your own DNO's filings. You can do this with a simple Google search, or you can go to Companies House, but find out exactly how much money your DNO is making. And then look in that report and see how much is being siphoned off for shareholders. Then write to your MP, to your energy supplier, and the energy secretary, and to be honest, anyone else who will listen. Use your own words. Don't use one of these form letters, because they see those and they just ignore them. So write in your own words, but be very clear and very firm. Demand transparency and demand action. And if nothing changes, let them know that you will make it count at the ballot box. Households are being squeezed, and we're doing everything in our control to keep our bills down, but they are continuing to take. That's it for today's video. Apologies if this came across as a bit of a rant. You can probably tell I'm quite angry about this. I will be taking this up with my local MP. I will be taking this up with the Secretary of State for Energy. I will be taking this up with Octopus. I will be taking it up with everybody who will listen. And I do not intend to let this lie. It is not acceptable that there are children in this country who are going to bed in a cold house because they can't afford to heat their home when money is being siphoned off to pay shareholders and billionaires. Anyway, I hope this video has been eye-opening. If it has, a like and subscribe would be really appreciated. It will help spread this video out to further people. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. More than happy to answer them. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.